An NBA analyst puts together a blockbuster trade, sending the San Antonio Spurs a two-time All-Star, and I don't like any of it at all. And a former All-Star speaks on Wemby and says he is going to change the game. We break that all down here on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. Make sure you take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment, hitting that subscribe button down low. Keep this channel growing, and let's get right into it. So, blockbuster trade proposed by Gregg Schwartz of a Bleacher Report. Blockbuster trade proposal sends Bulls Zach Lavine to the Spurs. This trade is a four-teamer, and it is an insane trade if you haven't seen it. So I'm going to blow it up here. It's the Clippers are going to get Bradley Beal, 2031 pick from Phoenix, 2025 pick from the Kings, 2028 second rounder from the Bulls. Zach Lavine comes to the Spurs, and a 2029 unprotected first from the Bulls. And Norman Powell and Zach Collins and PJ Tucker head to Phoenix to pair along with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Then you got Keldon Johnson, Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, and Amir Coffey heading to Chicago. They're ready to go into rebuild mode, getting them young pieces. So, first off, for the Spurs, we're giving up Zach Collins and Keldon Johnson. Don't love it. I like Keldon Johnson a lot, and if Keldon Johnson's going to be the piece that you move, I would like to get something different than Zach Lavine. I will break down in just a moment. Zach Lavine right now is on a 5-year, $215 million contract, $43 million. He's due next season. The Spurs have money. The only one they're really paying anything is Devin Vassell right now. Otherwise, everybody else is going to be sub $20 million, so they are fine there. This is a quote from Lavine. Lavine has also felt singled out during film sessions and feels like he has been taking too much blame for the teams losing during his tenure, which has produced one playoff appearance in 7 years despite other rosters failing, sources tell ESPN, Collier reported. The Bulls have been trying to trade Lavine for a year. That is very apparent. You've been hearing a lot of Zach Lavine here, Zach Lavine there, Zach Lavine to the Lakers, and wherever else. Zach Lavine has been in a lot of trade talks because the Bulls don't want him there and Lavine doesn't want to be there. And that brings up the point of Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins. I understand you're getting that Bulls protected pick. If we bring the trade back up, you're going to get the 2029 unprotected pick from the Chicago Bulls, but I don't love the fit of Zach Lavine. Here's why. Stephon Castle, I get that he can be your primary ball handler. He can be a playmaker. His projection actually is, as we know very well, DeJounte Murray at his peak. We knew DeJounte Murray was able to make himself become an all-star because of the way he was able to play defense, the way he was able to score, and he was becoming a better facilitator over the years. If you feel like Stephon Castle's best role is as the primary ball handler, making plays for the San Antonio Spurs, then Zach Lavine on this roster would fit. Because he's a three-point shooter, he is a scorer, he's a guy who can get to the basket, he is a guy who can play some pretty solid defense as long as he's bought in, and he would be bought into this team. But I don't like the trade, and here's why. $43 million is a lot. I understand he signed it in 22, so the deal is going to be about done in 27. You'd be able to get out of the deal, but Wemby's going to be needing a contract within that time. He's going to need that extension. I don't love the deal when it comes to money-wise, one. Two, he doesn't want to be in Chicago. Chicago doesn't want him there, so why would we keep pushing? Like, we can get him for less. I don't think you even need to really give up Keldon Johnson. You might be able to give up other pieces for him and maybe give up one of your picks rather than giving up a piece like Keldon Johnson. I think there's a better way to make that trade happen for the San Antonio Spurs if they were going to make that trade happen. That's number two. And number three, Zach Lavine, Stephon Castle, and then obviously you have Chris Paul there right now. It's just an odd pairing for the backcourt if you were to do this today. Obviously, Chris Paul is not the future of this organization. Chris Paul is there to mold Stephon Castle, to mold Devin Vassell, to mold Tre Jones and help grow Wemby. But if you already have Devin Vassell and Stephon Castle, running Zach Lavine at the 3 makes you smaller. I understand you have 3 bigger guards, but that still makes you smaller. I don't love Zach Lavine and the fit for Zach Lavine. I would prefer to get either a true point guard or a very versatile wing defender who can 3-and-D kind of guy, the Chris Middleton type of guy. That would be what I would want to move Keldon Johnson for if that is the choice. But going on with this report, Zach Lavine has played with Gregg Popovich in the 2020 Olympic team, which won a gold medal. So this report's saying they believe they can get the best out of Gregg Popovich. I don't think that Zach Lavine fits on the Spurs well. I get that he's a shooter, and I get that he can create his own shot. I get that around Wemby you need shooters, but I don't love him pairing with Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell in the backcourt, especially this year, adding Chris Paul into the mix as well. I think all of it's just puts too much guard depth, and I get you can run him at the 3 rather, because he is 6'6", but I don't love it. I think there's better pieces that you could get, especially when you're putting out Keldon Johnson there, who I like, who's going to keep ascending. He's only 24 years old, and he has a lot of room to grow now that he's in a great position, and he's got a great leader to help him on the floor in Chris Paul and off the floor in Gregg Popovich. But moving on to the next portion of this, Chicago Bulls star makes bold prediction on Victor Wembanyama. How good can star Victor Wembanyama become in the NBA? This is Nikola Vucevic of the Chicago Bulls. So this is a Chicago Bulls centric around the Spurs for this one here. And Vooch said, now that he's emerged, he will continue to change the game in a way. As the season progressed, he's advanced and adapted. He didn't know if he was a 5, a 4, or a point guard. Over time, he found himself. Yes, he did find himself. He found himself because he is a point forward. He's actually more so a point center. He is what Jokic is, but he has more handle than Jokic when it comes to on the perimeter. Jokic can obviously bring the ball up, lead the break. He obviously is the best big man passer we've ever seen, so Jokic, no shade anything. He is great, best player in the game today. But Victor Wembanyama has a little bit of KD to him, but he also has a little bit of big body Rudy Gobert in the paint to him. Also has a little bit of Giannis, how way he can kind of lead the break, not put his head down, and the strength of Giannis, but the way he's so tall and can lead a break. So he has found himself, and it's just alien. That's how he's found himself. And 220 centimeters tall, I believe that's 7'4", with movements like a guard. Physically, he's weaker than us, but he has the height and the wingspan, about 8 feet. There are times when I got to the basket, made a move that worked against everyone, took the shot, and he just blocked it. You can't see the hoop because of him. You can't see the hoop because he is so incredibly tall with long arms, with a wingspan we've really not seen from many, if any, NBA players throughout time. Maybe Manute Bol, Sean Bradley, a couple others, but really it's in a high class of we haven't seen this wingspan, we haven't seen this player, but those players could not move like this guy here. So he is right. Wemby can change the game, but he's going to change the game more in a LeBron way than a Steph way. And I mean by that is LeBron changed the game because he changed how players move and player empowerment and how people spoke. But on the floor, he changed the game by how you have to prepare for him, how you got to build rosters against him, how you are going to plan for this man. He changed the entire landscape of 29 other teams because they had to build their team to fit him. Steph changed the game in the sense of guards stretching the floor, shooting threes and everything. The reason why Wemby's going to change it more like LeBron than Steph is Steph, not himself, but Steph's style is replicable. Like, obviously, Trae Young, Damian Lillard try to have that style. They're not going to do it as efficiently as Steph because he's the greatest shooter we've ever seen and a top 5 ball handler we've ever seen. But you can find offenses that are motion offensive, spread the floor, give a lot of space. I mean, we see that today. They completely eliminated really the traditional center. Embiid can shoot threes. Jokic can shoot threes. Karl Anthony Towns can shoot threes. A lot of these centers today can stretch out and hit threes. Wemby's going to change the game in the sense of how teams are going to be built around him, because you can't just have regular rosters with him. You can't just have regular teams, because he is going to be such a dominant force that you have to prepare for him in a certain way, and you have to prepare his real roster for him in a certain way. So he's going to be like LeBron in that sense, more than like Steph Curry, who changed the dynamics of the game of basketball. But let me know in the comments if you think Wemby's going to change the dynamics of the game of basketball. Do you think he's going to change the overall roster construction and complexity of it? And let me know if you think Zach Lavine would be a good fit in San Antonio. I personally don't think he would be because of the guard depth they already have. But if you guys feel that he would be, let me know and let me know why. This again has been Spurs Digest with Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys, and I will see you guys soon.